Hey, welcome to Fresh Set of Downs. Bruce Badgley, Darryl Daniel, coming at you from 551 West here in beautiful downtown Lancaster. Sorry about the change in link there. Sometimes, the best link plans.
Right.
I mean, get a little crazy here, but hey, it's a new setup, man. I mean, What do you think? Gosh, we got logos. We're actually looking at ourselves.
Right.
We can tell how loud we are. Hopefully, we're not going to be too loud, and hopefully, you're going to be loud enough.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm not going to be screaming this time. I'm going to keep it down low.
No. You're doing good. You're doing good. But welcome, God. This is week 3.
Yeah.
We talk about how the season just blows by, and it's really starting to get exciting. What do you think, Darryl?
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of good games that happened last week as we look into week 3, but. Again, a lot of things are starting to unfold early because a lot of teams that open up with a big win week 1 lost week 2, and it's just there's a lot of parity and there's a lot of even teams going into the season.
Boy, I tell you, parity is definitely the word in a lot of classifications, but in others, I think that there's some clear leaders, emerging in certain classifications. But we'll get into that, as we go along. But wow, I mean, there were some really good games, last week, really starting on Thursday night. Kind of a very interesting matchup where Cedar Cliff was hosting Cocalico, and Cedar Cliff came out on top, 33-27.
Yeah, they were able to stop the Veer. Well, I shouldn't say stop it because it's hard to stop Cocalico's running game, but they were able to slow it down enough and make enough plays to get the victory there. But, Cocalico's a very good team. Obviously, we talked about Brubaker. The South Carolina commit, they did very well against them, and they ran the ball well, and they threw the ball well. But, Cedar Cliff historically has been a very good team, and they showed why historically they have been that good, and they continue to be that good.
Yeah, they play tough at home. It seems like I never get to see them on the road, so every time I see them, they're winning.
Yeah, absolutely. They're in the playoffs.
Exactly. Right, that's what I mean. They're winning playoff games, or they're winning regular season games. Last year I saw them. Beat Berks Catholic, which was a really good game.
Yeah.
Previous years, I've seen them beat Exeter in the playoffs. And, quite a lineage there at Cedar Cliff But Central Dauphin beat Berks Catholic 41-22. This was kind of a nip and tuck game up until the second half, and then Central Dauphin pulled away.
Yeah, they ended up scoring, I think, 20 points in the fourth quarter. I talked to a couple guys from Berks Catholic, and they just said that the game kind of got away from them a little bit in that fourth quarter, a couple mistakes. But, I mean, Berks Catholic is a very good team. They play tough. Central Dauphin, it's crazy how, 1 week they could barely put up points and then they put up 41 the next week. But, we know historically Central Dauphin is a very good program. And I think Berks Catholic, that bodes well for them, even though being able to beat the game up at the end there. So, they play very well at the end there. So, let's get this off here. So, but Berks Catholic was able to come back at the end, and even though they gave it the 20 points in the fourth quarter, it was very tight until that point.
It really was, and quite honestly, I was surprised that it wasn't a little bit closer. Berks Catholic comes in with some pretty lofty expectations every year, but I think this year especially. But Central Dauphin, I mean, obviously very well motivated after a week 1 loss at Wilson there. And, this has been, a lot of fun that Central Dauphin has really started out with, Wilson and Berks Catholic back-to-back there, really kind of being able to connect the dots early on in the season. And Manheim Central, a 14-0 win over Hempfield. We were fortunate enough to get Coach Hahn on our, Coach's Corner, the FSOD Coach's Corner, which is out there on YouTube. I definitely, if you guys, you should definitely check it out, because Dave Hahn and what he had to say about not only, football in general, but Manheim Central, just really, really good listening there if you're a football fan, or even if you're just a regular fan. But they win 14-0, pretty hard-fought game, but with another 6A opponent. I mean, they beat Cumberland Valley week 1. Now they come back with another 6A opponent and beat Hempfield.
Yeah, and obviously we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but if you think about the district picture, those points are going to be huge at the end, especially if it comes down to like really tight. If they have the same record or someone, maybe for a number 1 seed, those points being a 6A team is huge. But that Hempfield team, they're a very, very good team. But Manheim Central, like we talked about, you got to watch the YouTube interview. But like we talked about in that program, a lot of things they were able to do in the off season that they weren't able to do, obviously due to COVID. But a lot of teams they were able to get done this year, and it really showed in that resolve, their conditioning. They scored a touchdown on defense. Their defense looked very good. They looked like the Manheim Central of old defensively. So, I know he was a little bit disappointed with the outcome of the score, but Hempfield's a very good team led by Cam Harbaugh. I know he wants to, get that interception back, but I mean, it was a tough game. Manheim Central blitzed a lot of that game. They put a lot of pressure on them. So, that was a very good game. So I think you can't look at that 14, that Hempfield putting up 0 points and saying they're not a good team, because that's definitely not true. I think Manheim Central just had a good game plan going into the game.
All I have to say, they're 2-0 against 6A opponents.
Yeah.
And listening to Dave Hahn kind of, talk about how enthusiastic he is about this group of players. Man, just watch out. That's all I got to say is watch out, because I think that they're really poised. Cedar Crest 52, Gettysburg 14. Man, I really thought this was going to be a lot closer. Do you think that's more of a testament to how good Cedar Crest is, or was it an off night by Gettysburg?
I think, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm fortunate to have a couple guys from Cedar Crest that I work with. Braden, Aiden, a couple guys. So, I think because of the work they put in with the offseason, they have a young, first-time starting quarterback who is doing a great job defensively. They had a great offseason. They worked together well as a team. They were able to get in the weight room, which is huge for a lot of teams. So I just think that speaks to Cedar Crest, because even last year, I felt like going into the senior year with Braden and other leadership and other captains, I thought going into this year was going to be a very, very good year for those guys. And they're showing that, with a very good Gettysburg team. So it'd be interesting to see how they continue to progress from here, because obviously we got some big components coming up down the road. But, I mean, I think Cedar Crest is a very good team. Gettysburg is good, but they just, showed how much, better they are this year than they were last year.
Yeah, Cedar Crest, just another one of those teams that I talked about early on, how I thought that there were going to be teams that were going to kind of rise up from middle of the road to really contend.
Yeah.
And, boy, Cedar Crest is sure putting their stamp on that. We'll actually see them, or I'll actually see them in a couple of weeks when they're at Governor Mifflin. So we'll find out how that all works out.
How tough they are, yeah.
Yeah, right. I just want to talk about, we can, because this is a District 3 show and there was a district team involved, but maybe the most impressive team to me so far this season early on has been Springford. They've outscored their opponents 102-0.
Yeah.
And took care of a pretty good Chambersburg team, 48-0.
Yeah.
Can a team get too overconfident early on with those kind of big wins?
You definitely can, but now that falls on the coaching staff and the senior leadership, because you can't get too high, you never can get too low. You have to be consistent week to week. So again, you can't say, well, that team wasn't any good and we just beat them. That's not how it works. Okay, every single time, if the team is not that good, you got to go out there and, what I always say, handle your business. Handle your business, do what you got to do, get out of there without any injuries, and get ready for the next week. So again, their tests are coming, as we know. But I think, Springford, again, historically, in PA, we have teams that historically have been good because of the systems they have and the coaching staff that they have. And they're continuing to show that they are a great program, because year after year, they're finding guys. They always find a quarterback. They always have a receiver. They always have a linebacker, running back. So they just continue to do that, and they look good. So it's going to be hard to believe that they're going to be able to shut out most of their schedule because of who they have coming. But again, they are a very good team, and they just showed that.
So, you've talked many times, anybody who's watched the program knows that, you really feel that teams don't get their, true personality and chemistry till almost the second half of the season. So, some of these teams that are off to these good early starts, I mean, how do they reel themselves in? Or, what kind of, checks are they, putting on themselves to say, well, that isn't really the team who we think we are?
Right. Well, like Coach Hahn said yesterday, a lot of teams, if they're hitting all cylinders now, that means they're putting everything in. You're going to be able to see everything they're doing, and eventually someone's going to pick up and understand there's tendencies, there's things they do on a regular basis. So eventually they're going to run into a brick wall. But if they're able to become a chameleon, so to speak, and each week and based off of who they're playing, be able to make changes and add little nuances, or say like they run ISO out of this formation. Now instead of ISO, they run jet. So that's where you're going to be able to get teams off balance. But if a team gets in and say, well, we're going to just do what we're going to do, and think you're just going to run through your league like that, that's not going to happen. So I think that's going to be big. And then also, if you have guys, if you're just trying to get a feel and got new guys in, new first-time starters, like Coach Hahn talked about, there's guys on defense that haven't played offense yet.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So now you get to game 7 and you're like,
well,
I didn't, you know,
and conditioning too. You know, look, I mean, everybody's fresh right now.
Everybody's fresh right now.
I mean, so what's going to happen in week 4 or 5 in a conference schedule? As you know, really, they get out there and look. Everybody's going to get beat up. Everybody's going to have bumps, bruises, and you know, heaven forbid, you know, you're going to have to work through injuries. I mean, every team's just going to have to.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I think is going to take its toll, you know, over these teams that have, you know, not only is it give hope for the teams that have had poor starts, but I think it's a reality check time for the teams that have had a fast start.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because time will tell. The season's long, you know, because a team can go 5-0 and finish and go 0-5. So anything can happen in the season. So I mean, I think it's a long season. You just got to be consistent. That's the biggest word I use to all my guys, just being consistent. That's the biggest thing.
And you really don't know at this particular juncture, let's say, for instance, you know, with Springford, that 102 to nothing, whether or not, you know, how that's going to play out, you know, whether or not the teams that they play were of quality.
Right.
You know, we talk about all these coaches that they always like to play tough competition, but everybody can't be tough.
Right.
You know, so, and then Governor Mifflin played Wilson. I was fortunate enough to call that game. Governor Mifflin, quite honestly, really wasn't challenged. They won 42-14. They were in control the entire game. They dictated every aspect of the game. And, I mean, your thoughts on not only Governor Mifflin, but what you're expecting out of Wilson the rest of the way.
Well, again, kind of, if you think about what happened last year to Wilson, the same thing. You know, Governor Mifflin went there and they put it on him, and Wilson was able to regroup and go 7-1 last year. You know, and I see the same thing happen this year possibly. You know, they got obviously the new starter at quarterback. They got a couple new pieces around. You know, but I think they're going to go back because as coaching staff is so good at what they do. They're going to get back, regroup. They'll probably move pieces around. They might make some changes here and there because the rest of their schedule, they're going to have a very tough schedule. So I think they'll regroup, but it just, like we talked about the week before, you know, it just shows Governor Mifflin and how tough they are. They're going to be who they are. They got little nuances, little wrinkles they'll throw in there. But the thing is, obviously we talk about Nick Singleton and their offense every week, but their defense is playing very good.
I've been more impressed with their defense than their offense. I mean, they just don't give up anything. Look, Brad Hoffman for Wilson was a warrior. I mean, he ran the ball well. I mean, he couldn't breathe in the pocket.
Right.
And I mean, he hung in there. But yeah, that Governor Mifflin defense, man, just don't sleep on those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so anyway, all right. So we had all these great games. Oh, and one thing we forgot about was actually why I'm missing.
Yeah.
Another dominating performance over Pottsville. I've been fortunate enough to be able to do those games the last few years, and kind of migrated over to Mifflin and Wilson this year. But I mean, just a dominating performance by Weil and Pottsville. And Pottsville was a ranked team in 4A. Why I'm missing 3A.
Right. I mean, they're all the way across the board. Everything that they lost last year, those young guys, Drew, Charlie, Aiden Mack is there. Jevin is stepping up big on that offensive line. Just across the board, those guys are getting it done. And then, you know, Ben Ben Zachman, his quarterback, his brother obviously was the quarterback last year. Ben is doing a great job controlling the offense. And then defensively, they just do not make mistakes. They're just where they need to be. They get guys on the ground. They do a good job of tackling. And on offense, their offensive line does a good job of being physical.
It's such high percentage football on both sides. I mean, it's just incredible. Obviously, that's just a football factory over there in YL, and I think they just kind of proved it. All of those guys were just, I mean, they were pumped. They were ready, said, hey, look, we want our chance, okay? Right. They had that group of seniors that, made it
to the state championship
game. Hey, this group, they're going after a state title, and they mean business, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's a great way to put it, because those guys and the YMSA staff does a great job of going week to week and saying, those guys did what they did. This is your team. Like, how are you guys going to be remembered as seniors? You can't live on what happened in 2020. So as the 2021 seniors, how are you guys going to be remembered? And I think that's what those guys understand.
Such enormous pressure to form your own legacy there at YMSA.
Yeah.
But that, I'm sure most schools would love to have that problem.
That's a problem everyone would love to have.
All right, so we had some, obviously some great games. And now we're going to talk about Darryl's Performer of the Week. Who, in your mind, was the guy that was set apart from everybody else on an individual basis in District 3 last week?
Well, kind of like I did last week, I want to try to do the same thing. First of all, because like we talked about the linemen, we have to give a lineman shout out, and I'm gonna start calling them the pancake servers. Lucas Palange over at Exeter, he had a great game. Their last game, he did a great job. Jevin Williams, the big 6'4", 300-pound lineman at YL, I think he had like 5 pancakes. And then a young man I call Mighty Mouse, Julian DeMeo, he did an unbelievable job, and he's just so vocal on the field. He gets everybody organized. He gets that huddle organized. He's a good leader, a good senior leader. So that's my shout out to the offensive lineman. I want to try to make sure I get those guys.
Servers.
The pancake servers. So the IHAP players of the week. Another group I want to talk about, because again, we talk about Nick Singleton and the job that he does, and what I love about him, the first thing he does though, whenever you interview or when everyone interviews him, he talks about his offensive line. So every week we talk about being physical and how physical they are. Again, we know he's physical, but in order for him to be physical, the line in front of him has to be physical. So I want to kind of give a shout out to number 64, Nate Goodman, number 50, Clay Reynolds, 53, Jacob Lopez, 51, Jose Landrum, and number 77, Jonah Nagel. So they're led by Coach Morrissey, who I absolutely love. Like you were talking about, they get a 2-yard gain, and you would think they just had a 70-yard run.
Frothing at the mouth.
Yeah.
They're just whipped into a frenzy.
Right, but for a coaching staff, that's what you love, because those guys feel like they can't do anything wrong, and those coaches celebrate every ounce of success they have. And like as a player, they would do anything for a coach like that, because he's giving you all his energy. Those guys are gonna give the same thing back to him. So I want to give a shout out to those linemen and that offensive line, because again, Nick Singleton, I know he would do the same thing. Aiden Martin would do the same thing. Their quarterback Eden would do the same thing, because those guys are paving the way for them to be successful on an O-line and a D-line. So I just want to give a shout out to those guys. As far as player of the week, a couple guys I want to recognize for some of the weeks they had. Jael Plowden over at CV, he had 9 catches for 170 yards and a touchdown. Columbia, a team that we haven't really talked much about, Artie Poindexter, he had 10 catches for 104 yards and a touchdown. A guy, Anthony Ivey, which everyone knows, he had a big game, because every week when we talk about it, I know it's going to be tough for him to kind of get going, but it was good. I know he's excited, but he had 7 catches for 172 yards and a touchdown. Jack Reed has continued to roll at work at quarterback. I know they had the loss. I was able to talk to him. Tough loss, but like I said, you got to brush yourself and move on. But this week, for the second week in a row, he had over 250 all-purpose yards. I'm going to go with Andre Weidman. And this is the first time I think in maybe 18 years, I think it is, that Warwick has won their first 2 games of the year. And he has a big to-do with that. So 262 all-purpose yards. He had 4 touchdowns, 163 yards rushing, and he also had 7 tackles on defense. So, but again,
that's great to where, I mean, the performance, the way that you're bringing not only the offensive statistics, but the defensive statistics into the fray.
Because to me, MVP or the player of the game is someone that makes the team better. And if you remove that player from that team, is that team successful still? So, and the thing is about Andre, what I love about him and being able to work with him over a year now, is that if you bring this up, he just, he's all right, that's fine. But like he'll talk about his teammate because he loves those guys. He's a great leader, even though he's only a junior. He's a great leader on that team because he knows this helps them win. But if he didn't get none of these stats and they still won the game, he would be very satisfied with that. So he's going to be the player of the week this week. And again, he just continues to get better. That team around him gets better, and they just continue to build. And again, as we talk about a stone as it rolls downhill, picks up momentum. They're starting to pick up a lot of momentum, and if they just stay confident, they get a big win.
Another group trying to do their legacy. Okay, I mean, they had 9 guys at Warwick that played postseason football last year. I mean, and yet they're off to a great start thus far.
Right, a huge win. So I'm excited for that team to see what they do moving forward. Again, I know Coach Miller is doing a good job of keeping those guys. Let's stay focused. Let's go week to week because you start looking down the road at who you have. You get complacent. You just say, oh, we're going to beat this team. Or we're going to beat this team. And that's, you got a loss to someone you shouldn't.
All right. Well, I tell you what, we're going to do one last look here at the state rankings because next week I think we'll have enough to really start looking at the power rankings, at least in the district. But some of these teams I've been fortunate enough to see. And in 6A, we've got quite a cross-section of teams. But, I was fortunate enough to see St. Joe Prep against that team from Maryland last week. I was very impressed with the defensive side of the football. They're very young on the offensive side of the football. They're very, very, very well coached. Boy, it's hard to, somebody's going to have to beat them, obviously, to take them off that pedestal. Archbishop Wood, another outstanding performance last week.
That's going to be an unbelievable game when they play.
I mean, it just, and that's, I'll be honest with you, that's the best part about it, is so many of these teams play one another. It's not one of our games of the week. But, we're going to get down to the fact that, another team in the top 10, LaSalle College, is playing against another number 1 team in 5A, Imhotep Charter on Saturday. So that's going to be a whale of a game. Pittsburgh Central Catholic came back. Central York right up there. North Penn, always tough. And look at here. Emmaus from District 11. Mount Lebanon from District 7, really tough. And I was able to talk to the Garnet Valley head coach, Mike Ricci. I mean, what a guy. I mean, that's a team, and he's been coaching for eons. He's even impressed with some of the players that he has. He even thinks this is his last year. It may be his best team.
Right. And they're every year they're getting closer and closer. When I was down there 4 years ago at Coatesville, we played a Garnet Valley team, and they were so big. And I was like, they had like 85 kids on the team, if not more. And they were so deep. And so like each year he's getting better, and he's getting closer, and he's getting deeper into that playoff, getting closer to that. So again, like if he's saying that's his best team, and I've seen a lot of those teams, that says a lot.
Well, let's just say he didn't exactly say that, but he was really raving on his team. Parkland making the top 10.
Oh, wow.
And look at some of the teams that are, creeping up there. Look at here. Wilson's still ranked at one, or a team to watch. Coatesville. Wilson, a very good team. I mean, clearly the Lancaster Lebanon League Section 1 is really going to be a dogfight now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, in District 12 and 11, a lot of those teams in the top 10, they're going to play each other.
Exactly.
So that's going to start sorting itself out, whatever. So that's going to be interesting because we'll be able to see how good St. Joe's really is this year, playing LaSalle and Archbishop Wood. So that's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, correct. I mean, and connect the dots with TEP too. I mean, that's the big game I think in the state this week is LaSalle and TEP.
Yeah.
And at 5A, my God, quite honestly, that looks like, the two of the top 3 teams there, Imhotep Charter, Governor Mifflin, have really been impressive. But Cathedral Prep, they're 2-0. Upper Dublin, I mean, they're just so consistent. Off to another great start. Penn Trafford from District 7, and Whitehall from District 11. Gateway actually took it on the chin this last week, but they're still ranked. And Academy Park, really interested to see how that plays out down there in District 1. That's going to be some of those teams that are going to battle it out with Garnet Valley. I mean, that's going to be kind of crazy for a conference title anyway. But look at there, Cedar Cliff, Chester at 2-0, Exeter Township, Peters Township, some of the teams to watch. In 4A, there's nobody more impressive than Thomas Jefferson. I mean, they had a big win.
Jersey Shore's still in there.
Jersey Shore. I mean, they just keep winning. Belverdon, a good game. But from District 3, my gosh, we got Bishop McNevitt and Berks Catholic, back in there, along with Cocalico, who's hosting Governor Mifflin. I mean, oh my, that's, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And Pope John Paul II actually is playing Berks Catholic next week.
Yeah, that's going to be
a very good game. Very good game. 3A, North Schuylkill, just a powerhouse out of District 11. Central Valley, still just as tough. That's the defending state champion at number 2. Weil, I mean, wow. I mean, those top 3 teams are just juggernauts there.
Very consistent.
And really not anybody else from District 3, in there. But, going to be very interesting. And, Steel High. I mean, do you ever think of Steel High as being a 1A team?
No. I mean, they play like a 4A team. They're very well coached. They have great size to be a 1A team. It just, that program, for how many years that program's been alive, it's just like I think they said 800 wins or something.
I know.
That's amazing. So it's a very good program, and I wish those guys all the best, because they're going into the season year to try to get that back-to-back state championship. They're going to have a real shot at it.
They're going to have a real shot at it, is correct, yeah. And we're going to get a little refreshment here. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Just don't hit our microphone.
Right.
All right. Live TV, how do you like it, Darryl?
Love it.
And I think we're back to the way that this show really was, because what it was just a couple guys showing up, and we're talking football.
Right.
And that's exactly, the atmosphere that we've got here. It's a little bit quiet down here today because everybody's upstairs in the Sky Bar and outside. Nice, if there wasn't the risk of rain, we would have been up on the Sky Bar here at 551. But, we want to thank our sponsors of this program, Get Recruited Consulting. Andrew Cohen has just been a big supporter of this program and really takes a personal approach to recruiting. If you ever want to find out how your recruiting's going, if you're working with Andrew, just pick up the phone and give him a call. I don't know if there's anybody else that you can do that to. We want to thank our friends here at 551. They do a great job. And then Brute Athletic, who is the sponsor of our Performance of the Week. Just awesome. Really can't thank all of our sponsors enough here. You're seeing their logos plastered all over the screen there. But now we're going into week 3 games. This is typically the end of kind of the preseason.
Right.
And then we'll start getting into the conference game the following week. But the one thing that I wanted to make sure of is that we talked a little bit about, Reading High.
Yeah.
I think everybody was somewhat surprised at their win last week. Knowing Coach Doyle and that coaching staff as well as I do, I cannot say enough about the effort that those guys have been doing at Reading High, and just a tremendous win. But they got their work cut out for them. I mean, with Academy Park. What do you think?
Yeah, well, we just talked about Academy Park, being a ranked team out of District 1. So, and then they're coming up the road to Reading High. So that's going to be a good game, a good challenge for rating high. But I think they'll be ready to go. But that's going to be a tough Academy Park team to beat.
Really tough. 2-2-0 mid-Penn teams going at it. Or excuse me, a crossover game actually between Cedar Crest and Carlisle, who really had a rough year last year. It is so nice to see them with a good start. But Cedar Crest, my gosh, is that? I guess we'll find out who they are this week, won't we?
Yeah, this Carlisle team is a very good team, and it's going to be a great test for Cedar Crest. Carlisle does a lot of different things, so it'd be interesting if Cedar Crest can match up well with these guys, and if they can be able to run the ball against them too.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. These two teams, Wilson and Exeter Township, they haven't played in quite a while, and they're facing off at Exeter. This is a rivalry game that really hasn't been played in some time, and I think probably has more interest in Berks County than any game has had in some time.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very, very good game. Again, both teams are physical. Both teams do a lot of good things well. But neither team can afford to go 1-2 at all, because if they get too far behind what's ahead of them, they're going to be kind of looking out like we talked about week one.
There's just going to be too many teams they have to leap over to get the playoffs.
Right. So, especially 5A, I think they have like the 14 teams, but 6A only has 8. So, so you can't afford to slip back and have another loss. So I think that's going to be a very hard for a game. I'm excited to see the results of that game.
I tell you what, I'm glad that kudos to Wilson, reaching out and setting up this game. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it wasn't played last year.
Right.
But and the bad part is that they won't play for some time, because I think the crossover game in the Lancaster-Lebanon League that Wilson picked was Governor Mifflin.
Yeah.
So this will be the last time that these two teams are going to play in some time.
Right.
So anyway, live TV. Here we go. Southwestern at New Oxford.
Oh, yeah.
And New Oxford. Typically a playoff team.
Right.
They
great
give people
play.
fits. Yeah. Great quarterback play. Solid team there. One of these teams is going to have their first loss. What do you think?
Yeah, Southwestern does a great job running the ball. They have a whole bunch of running backs that touch the ball. So that's going to be interesting to see if Southwestern can stop the pass and if New Oxford can stop the run of Southwestern. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to see who comes again. In the conference and in that league is going to kind of put someone in the driver's seat down there.
Spring Grove and Northern York. My man Milldog, hey, he's got a good team down there again this year. I tell you what, Bill Miller, just a terrific job there at Northern York, and quietly, he's really building a program down there.
Absolutely. We got a chance to talk to him last year. And the thing about their program, kind of like Manheim Central's program, the whole town rallies around them.
Yeah.
And it's really, really, really cool to see. And it's great support. So, again, this is going to be a great early test for those guys, for them to kind of stay up on top and get back to those playoffs.
And Governor Mifflin is at Cocalico. The Governor Mifflin coaches, they were shaking their head after the Wilson game. They're going man, these guys always beat us. It doesn't matter,
Right.
So they definitely have their guard up, and they're going to come in guns blazing. I tell you what, can Cocalico hold them off?
They can. They definitely can. They're going to be tough, and historically, Cocalico's always been that team where you're you count them out, and all of a sudden you're 35 to 20. They won 35 to 20. So I definitely think if anybody's going to be ready, Cocalico is going to be ready. But again, if Governor Mifflin is able to set the tone and control the game like they did last week, they're just going to be a tough out. And that's just what it is. But I think Cocalico, again, on the offensive line, they are physical enough. And again, we're going to use that word to that word. They make us not use it anymore. But if you got to be able to match Governor Mifflin's physicality. And if you can match how physical they are, and you can stop the quarterbacks from making big plays, because you stop Singleton,
yeah, because it's
and then
a rotation now.
Yeah, and then Trey Rocker busts a big play, Aiden Martin get a big, and so then all of a sudden they start busting, and the next thing you know, here comes Nick Singleton back, and now 70 yards, and now he's blowing the game open. So, but I think Cocalico has a team that could do it, whether they do or not. That's TBD.
That's why we play the game.
That's why we play the game.
I think that Coach Stroll is going to have those guys ready. One of the things that I always marvel at is every time I go to a Cocalico game, and I was asking it of when I was over there for the Weiser game a little earlier, it's like I ask them whether they cut the grass or not. I mean, the grass.
They are definitely not cutting the grass this week. That grass is going to be like this. It's going to be running through weeds and everything. I guarantee they're not cutting the grass.
Yeah. But, we kid. Look, you have to have
teams did that when I remember playing in high school. I'm not going to say the team, but when we played, the same thing. The grass was so high, and you don't realize how hard it is to run in the grass that high. And if you got speed, it slows you down. But I don't think that'd be an issue because they'll figure out a way to get it done. But again, Cocalico, and make sure everybody understands, we're not saying they need to do that to win. We're just saying that's
gamesmanship.
It's gamesmanship. It's
that's
just
literally a home field advantage.
Yeah, it
right?
is. Yeah, so again, same thing. Why missing that's an advantage.
Right.
Oh my God. And they know it is.
Well, and the fact that Coach Wolfram, to a man, will tell you that the single biggest advantage that Wyomissing has is playing on Saturday because nobody wants to play on Saturday.
Well, you got to get up early and drive.
Oh my God! Yeah, right. But the big game, District 3, the renewal of the rivalry between Bishop McDevitt and Harrisburg. I mean, how great is the fact that they're lacing them up against one another?
Yeah, I was at the last game when Michael Parson was a senior, and they played that game, and it was raining. Oh man, that game there. Because again, the thing about that game is the coaching staffs are intermingled too. So there was a couple coaches at Harrisburg, so they're kind of back and forth a little bit. So that's going to be a very interesting game. The last time that game, I actually was at that game, so 3 years ago, that game got a lot of extracurriculars. And it was a physical game, and it was just so the tempers are going to be flaring. So I just think that's going to be very exciting. It's going to be a very exciting game.
Yeah, it is. It's great that they're getting back together and playing one another.
Right.
And
I think the city likes it too.
I think, well, a lot more than just the city. Yeah. I wouldn't miss the game for the world. I'll be honest with you. I had a tough choice. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's either Harrisburg, Bishop McDevitt, or LaSalle, Imhotep. So which game am I going to do? Well, I'm siding with my District 3 and obviously going over to Severance Field. One of my favorite places to cover a football game.
The band
and the fried chicken.
The food is so good. But Coach Wechter is a great coach. Coach Cal, we interviewed him last year. We both know him well. They're going to be excited, and I'm sure Coach Cal, Coach Wechter, the biggest thing is just kind of controlling everyone's emotions.
Yes.
Because there's going to be a lot of talking. But again, that's what football is. There's going to be a lot of but as long as everybody can keep it under control, I think that game is going to be a very good game.
Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think you're going to have tremendous athletes on both sides. And, they're going to be out there showcasing their talents. And, boy, hopefully we showcase District 3 football for what it's worth. It has been only 2 weeks, but boy, it sure seems like we've had a lot of great football.
Oh yeah,
and we still have
a lot of great matchups. Too.
Oh my God, yeah, right. And I think that the conference schedules are really matching up well. So many storylines, in every particular conference, in every particular section, across District 3 this season, and thankfully. We've kind of gotten away, haven't been affected here by this bug like it has been in other parts of the state, unfortunately. But, everybody's got to keep their guard up. Everybody's got to pay attention. And you know what? We're going to get through this season, and we're going to get all the way to Hershey, and I think that's what everybody expects. So
yeah. It's
all right, well, way to go, my man. I mean, really, good job today. Good job today.
I love this show. Man.
It was a lot of fun here on Fresh Set of Downs. Thanks once again to 551 West for such great, being such a great host.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to try and get outside one of these evenings, when it's either cooler or there's not a threat of like severe thunderstorms, because we want to showcase this great restaurant and downtown Lancaster. You can't beat it. I mean, probably one of the most unique places you're ever going to see around here.
And the food is fantastic.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
Food is so good.
All right, well, listen, for Bruce Badgley and Darryl Daniel, I'm Bruce Badgley. Yeah. We'll see you next week on Fresh Set of Downs. So long, everybody.